Well, in today's Money Monday, recently the world celebrated National Comic Book Day, which may not seem like a big deal unless you know your comics. And one person we know who does is Kyle Wingfield from Finley Alexander Wealth Management. How are you?
I'm pumped. Yeah. How you doing?
Good. So I hear a little birdie told me that when you walk into your office, there's Bruce Wayne, Superman, and Black Panther all throughout the space. Is that true?
Well, it is true. I'm more of a Marvel Universe guy to begin with, but I do love Bruce Wayne and do like Clark Kent, aka Kal-El.
And so while it's not traditional, there's a lot of intentional investing that people can do when it comes to comic books and their collections and their homes. They can be worth a lot of money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially since we're moving more into the digital comic side of things. So that the actual comic book that you buy, that's not so readily available as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago. And so obviously original comic books like Amazing Fantasy #1 or Amazing Fantasy, I forget which number it is, but it's Spider-Man #1, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine if you own that, or imagine if you own the first 5 X-Men, or imagine if you own, I don't know, Luke Cage #1. There's somebody on this call that does. So those particular comic books are really, really valuable. But again, when you bought them, you didn't think they were, but if you hold on to them, you never know.
Well, I think about all these moms and dads that were just buying these for their kids, like, whatever, it's a nickel, here you go. And then now, I mean, what it could be worth at this point is really crazy. Is there anything that's come out in the last few years that could be worth increased value in the future, or does it have to be super old at this point?
No, I think when you asked me that question, my brain goes immediately to like the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s, so I grew up during where personal gaming systems became a big deal, like with the original Nintendo and Commodore 64 and Atari and all that stuff. Yeah. And I own all those, and I had all those gaming systems, and I kept them all. And now, if you want to get an original Nintendo, for example, that can be pretty pricey, or an original Atari. Now they're doing reboots. But think of it that way. Like imagine what the original iPhone might be worth 40 years from now, 30 years from now, just the original, just to see the technology, because people are very nostalgic about things like that.
So this is considered a very, would you call it a smart investment, a clever investment? I always think it is a smart investment because you're able to enjoy it at the same time that it is appreciating. Is that correct? I mean, I'm a layperson, so I don't know.
Well, I kind of look at any of all this stuff, collectibles, right? So I look at it, the first collectible that most people might be familiar with is like artwork. I think people who collect art, they love the art, first of all, the art speaking to whatever it is. And then it happens to be something that years later, decades later, is worth a lot of money. And it's like, wow, you made a smart investment. But at the time, I just bought something that I loved. I bought something that I liked. And it turns out it was worth something. I think people who buy art just to collect it for the increased value, that's their business. But I'm someone who just buy what you love. If it's worth something in the end and it's a collectible, that's awesome.
All right. So tell me if people want to get in touch with you to ask you maybe questions about that, their favorite furniture or artwork or comic books, they can do that. How should they do that?
Well, they can just go to finleyalexander.com. You can hang out on the website. You can, of course, contact us there. And if you do have collectibles, you wonder what they're worth, wouldn't mind having a conversation with you just to help you find a good place to source, pricing it correctly and making sure that they're giving the right price based on the condition. Because sometimes you got to be careful about those places because they might know what you have, you don't know what you have, and they're going to lowball you and then resell it for something huge. So don't let that happen to you.
Well, I like that it's one-stop shopping with you. They can talk about the comics and how to get the most out of it. Appreciate you being here, Kyle. And we'll be right back with more Midday Maryland right after this. Stay tuned.